CNBC TV 18, celebrating 15 years of leadership.
Hello and welcome to Markets Today. I'm Lata Venkatesh and with me is Surabhi Upadhyay in the Delhi studio. Surabhi, after a roller coaster week, we after all ended above that 8,200 mark. Not a bad day at all on the bourses.
Absolutely. I think a pretty decent note for people to go into the weekend with. Let's quickly run through the headlines. A positive end to a volatile week. The Nifty rallies 1% to close above 8,200 as markets globally reverberate with the Fed's dovish stance and the BOJ's loose policy. IT stocks rally the most on Accenture's positive outlook, but defensives like FMCG and pharma see some profit booking.
A positive end to a volatile week. Well, that was what Surabhi just told you. The markets have rallied over 1%. The heavyweights, that is. The midcaps also rise, but they were in lower gear. The midcap index was up 0.6%. Trader favorites like GVK, HDI and Lanco were, however, out of favor. The new kid on the block, Monte Carlo Fashions, failed to impress. It closed down 12% after listing at 585 rupees, much below the issue price of 465 per share.
The GST bill finally makes its way to Parliament. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley tables the constitutional amendment bill, saying the government is open to debate and suggestions, promises that states will not have to bear any revenue loss and will be fully compensated.
The midterm economic review says growth may improve in the second half and manage a 5.5% tally. Private balance sheets are too weak to invest, so public investments will have to take the lead. Government reiterates commitment to 4.1% fiscal deficit target, but concedes that will be back on the back of expenditure cuts as tax collections will miss estimates. All right, those are the headlines from the markets, and here are the experts that we have lined up on the show for you tonight. Market perspective from Jyotivardhan Jaipuria, acclaimed economist and central banker William Bouter will give us his take on the macro picture. We'll also get you a whole host of experts to talk about the government's big GST push.
All right, let's straight away get to the day's trading action. Then the markets continued their pullback for the second day running in line with global peers. For more, let's go across to Anuj Singhal. Anuj, not a bad Friday.
Well, a good day for the market again, a good follow-up to yesterday's gains, though you could argue that the market did not actually close at day's high point, and the mid-caps actually suffered quite a bit in late trade, and there you saw quite a bit of slip as well in advance decline ratio from about 6:1 to 1:1, but really that's par for course. It was Friday as well. The good thing for the bulls was that the market at least stabilized and showed signs of bottom formation around 8,000. Whether that holds out or not is something that we'll find out next week. But in today's trade, the stocks that led the market were the heavyweights. ICICI, Reliance and Larsen & Toubro. The Troika actually did quite well today. IT stocks as well, post Accenture's numbers supported the market. So Infosys, TCS, Wipro, all were in the green. Then you had stocks like Power Grid, Hindalco, Coal India. They were also higher. On the losing side, of course, you had ITC. That was a prominent Nifty loser apart from DLF and Asian Paints. And in the mid-cap basket, really SpiceJet on the way up and the new listing, Monte Carlo on the way down, were two stocks that stood out. So overall, a decent week for the market. It was flat for the week, but really with massive intra-week swings. So let's see what expiry week brings. It's going to be crucial.
Fair enough. Take your point, Anuj. We are going to enter a crucial phase in the last 3 days of this very interesting contract. But today itself, the market was very keen to absorb more risk. We saw some, high beta names, if you please, or names with a goodish amount of risk like Tata Power. A whole host of the power stocks actually do very well. The market quite clearly in a mood to take risk. But let's get some experts in on that note. Jyotivardhan Jaipuria, the head of research at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, expects the market to give returns of around 15% in 2015. He sees significant recovery in the economy in the next few quarters. Listen.
Still expect positive returns for 2015, but yeah, lower than what we've had this year, because this year has been like a great year. So I think we will get around 15% returns further in 2015, which I think would be very good. We have a thesis that earnings will double over 4 years. But it will be back-ended rather than front-ended. So we are not looking at FY15 or 16 being like the greatest years. It's probably FY17, which we think will be close to a 25% growth year. But in FY15, we are looking at around 15% earnings growth. My guess is, the third quarter is not going to be a very good quarter. Demand has not really picked up. Demand has been weak and sluggish. And to that extent, I don't think it's going to be a great quarter. If you look at the big macro, your current account deficit stress, your inflation stress, a lot of those stresses are going away. So to that extent, at some point during the course of the year, it would start translating into better recovery coming through in the economy.
All right, let's now move towards all the action from the futures and options space. We have Nigel D'Souza joining in with the latest. Nigel.
Well, in the derivatives market in today's trading session, we did see a big short covering bounce on the Nifty futures itself. So take a look at Reliance Industries. That one did come in for a short covering bounce. That aided the Nifty to move higher because Reliance ended higher by close to around 2% odd. The Bank Nifty futures as well, we did see some shorts covering out their positions because the Bank Nifty went higher and the open interest went lower. And importantly, ICICI Bank, that's the biggest weightage in the Bank Nifty. That one did see a big short covering bounce. Look at the open interest. Big shedding out there and the stock ended higher by close to around 3%. For the second day running, put writers made money. So the 8,200 put as well as the 8,000 put, on both those two strikes, we did see the premium fell by more than half in today's trade, indicating that now, in fact, the Nifty appears to be making a bit of a base at around that 8,000, 8,100 odd mark. But the bears, they were in control till a couple of trading sessions ago, so they were writing calls. The 8,200 call as well as the 8,100 call was being written, but with the Nifty getting up and going, that's what's really happened. We have seen shedding at around that 8,200 call as well as the 8,100 call, indicating that the bears, now they're closing out their position. They believe the Nifty has got some momentum, so they're taking whatever's left, closing out their positions. That's why there was big shedding on both those two strikes. While the 8,250 call, that's a big buying. The premium moved from around $24 to around $34 in today's session. Individual stocks, JSW Energy, that was the stock of the day. It ended higher by close to around 8-9%. Big buying we'll see on that counter. Reliance Communications, though, continues to get sold into, and Just Dial returned to the buying list in today's trade.
Right. Off the markets, but still very crucial to the market, is the GST Constitutional Amendment Bill. It finally made its appearance in Parliament, and the Finance Minister promised states every effort to ensure that there was no revenue loss. Here are a few opinions that we have from Satya Podar of Ernst & Young and Amit from Grant Thornton on what they have made of the GST bill.
The centre will assure them to compensate them for any loss which has been suffered. As far as the past is concerned, from 2010 to 2013, the CST compensation which was payable to the states, amongst the various debts which have been left behind on my table by the UPA, this is one of them. They have not paid. In the discussion on the demands for supplementary grants, I have already said I intend to honour that commitment which the UPA had made, and therefore the first installment in that repayment also I will try and pay in this financial year itself. Just as in the case of VAT, it was the fear of the unknown that will go down. The centre benefited, the states benefited. I have not the least doubt that both will benefit even in this case. And once this Parliament, both houses approve this and becomes the law, certainly with the approval of the states, we'll address the concerns of each one of those states. This is not a partisan piece of legislation. When the UPA brought it in, you had persons from the CPM, the BJP, and the National Conference as chairpersons. States are certainly concerned about their rights. We will ensure that their rights are preserved. No state is a loser.
The key issue is that the so-called safeguards that the finance minister has provided, they were always there from day one. And my own feeling is that it's largely been political posturing by the states to get some more concessions, more revenues out of the central government.
It's happening very fast, and that's a very good thing to see as well. The government is attempting to make up for lost time. And, the way in which the finance minister is giving the assurance that there should not be any problem in the passage in the Lok Sabha is also, showing the consensus that we spoke about a couple of days back, getting evidence with the statements made by the FM at the floor of the House.
Right, so that historic bill finally making its way to Parliament. Of course, its way through Parliament is another matter altogether. Let's get back to the market. And of course, IT remained one of the strongest sectors in trade today, with most of the benchmark stocks or the blue chip stocks rallying. The CNX IT index was up nearly 1.5%. All this after Accenture posted a robust revenue growth of 10% in the first quarter of FY15. Not just this, they sounded pretty optimistic about the future as well. Reema Tendulkar joins in to tell us more. Reema?
Thanks so much for that. Accenture came out with a strong Q1 earnings. They reported a revenue growth of 10% in the quarter on a year-on-year basis, the highest that we've seen in the last 11 quarters. And plus, the company upped its FY15 revenue guidance in the local currency to 5 to 8% versus an earlier 4 to 7%. They have lowered the EPS guidance for the year, but that's on account of currency. What's important is that the company has, managed to up the guidance, which means they have the confidence just 1 quarter into the calendar year. Now, this will provide some relief to the IT companies, especially because just recently TCS has sounded a cautious note, spoken about negative sentiment. So this will reassure investors about, the demand outlook as well as, the sentiment in for the IT stocks, which is why most of them closed up in the green.
Right, on that note, let's take a break now. But coming up, Citigroup's chief economist Willem Bouter will talk to us about the Indian economy. We will also get to other important news from the macro front.
CNBC TV 18, celebrating 15 years of leadership.